The library at 9:30 at night smelled like dust, old paper, and bad decisions. I was responsible for at least one of those. I sat cross-legged on the carpet between two towering shelves of outdated psychology textbooks, holding a pen like it might bite me if I made eye contact too long. My notebook lay open on my lap, one page completely blank except for a single, aggressively hopeful sentence written in the center. Hi. That was it. That was the sentence. This isn't delusion, this is hope, which is objectively worse. You've been staring at that page for 5 minutes, Maya said, chewing on a gummy candy like she was personally offended by my paralysis. At this point, the paper is going to develop self-esteem issues. I don't rush art, I said weakly. You wrote hi, Rena replied from where she was leaning against a shelf, arms crossed. That's not art. That's a cry for help. It's a soft opening, I argued, like easing into a pool instead of diving headfirst and breaking your neck. You already dove, Maya said. You're just drowning quietly. I sighed and pressed the pen to the page again. Okay. Focus. Eli. Eli, with his messy handwriting that slanted uphill like his pen, was constantly optimistic about the future. Eli, who chewed pens like they were a food group, to the point where half the lecture hall pens bore little bite marks like they'd survived an attack. Eli, who sat in front of me during lectures and leaned back just enough that I could see the notes he scribbled in the margins, tiny doodles, underlined words, stars next to things he thought were important. I liked that about him, that he looked like he cared, even when he pretended not to. I wrote slowly. I don't know how to say this out loud without immediately wanting the ground to swallow me whole, so I'm writing it instead. Maya leaned over. Okay, that's good. Vulnerable, but not unhinged. I am unhinged, I muttered. This is just the curated version. I continued. I sit behind you in lectures, which started as an accident and became a habit. You chew your pens like they owe you money, and your handwriting looks like it's trying to escape the page. I like that. I like you. I paused. Oh God. I like you. That's it. That's the line people write right before getting emotionally flattened. Do I sound normal? I asked. Rena snorted. Define normal. Like, I said, waving the pen vaguely. Not like I'm about to ask him to co-sign a mortgage. Maya read over my shoulder. Jack, this is sweet. Annoyingly so. That feels like a threat. Finish it, she said. I swallowed and added the last part. If you want to get coffee sometime, no pressure, no expectations, I'd like that. If not, I promise to die quietly and never mention this again. Rena laughed. Ah, yes, the promise of emotional self-destruction. Classic. I'm honest, I said defensively. I read the letter once, then again, then a third time, like repetition might magically reveal hidden red flags. This is real. This is me actually wanting something. This is terrifying in a way caffeine cannot fix. I folded the letter carefully, like it was fragile, like if I creased it wrong, my dignity would spill out. Okay, Maya said, clapping once. Operation Romance Disaster is officially underway. Don't call it that, I said. Call it Operation Mild Emotional Risk. You're an omega, Rena said. There's no such thing. Fair. The next morning I arrived at the lecture hall early. Too early. The kind of early where the lights flicker like they're not fully awake yet and the room feels like it's judging you for existing before coffee. I hovered near the door, letter tucked safely in my bag, heart doing that stupid fast thump thing like it was training for a marathon it did not sign up for. Okay, simple. Eli's desk was in the third row from the front, slightly left. I knew this. I had watched him sit there for weeks. I had a mental map, a very detailed mental map. I am not nervous. I am alert. Like a meerkat with feelings. I slid into the row, counted desks. 1, 2, 3. I hesitated. Wait. Was it third from the aisle or third from the wall? I frowned, leaned forward, double-checked the angle. Okay, this one. Definitely this one. I reached into my bag, pulled out the letter. Jack? I flinched so hard I almost swallowed my tongue. I turned. It was someone from my tutorial group, A beta, smiling, friendly, existing at the worst possible moment. "Oh, hey," I said, shoving the letter down into the open desk drawer like it was contraband. "What's up?" "Did you finish the reading for today?" they asked. "No," I said immediately, but I did emotionally prepare to pretend I did. They laughed. The moment stretched. Too long. "Anyway," they said, "see you in class." "Yep," I replied, nodding too hard. They walked away. I stared at the desk. "Okay. Done. Letter delivered." I put it in the right desk. I am not a cartoon character who slips on banana peels made of fate. I zipped my bag, turned on my heel, and left before my brain could start a PowerPoint presentation titled, "Ways This Could Go Wrong." The lecture hall filled quickly. I took my usual seat directly behind Eli. Or, no, wait, no, that wasn't Eli. That was Rowan. My stomach dropped so fast, I was pretty sure it hit the basement. Rowan sat in front of me, tall, broad-shouldered, radiating that calm alpha presence that made the air feel heavier around him. He was quiet, always had been. Never loud, never cruel. Just there, like a wall you didn't notice until you walked into it. I froze. Okay, this is new. Why is Rowan here? Eli sits here. Eli always sits here. Rowan shifted, leaning back slightly as he opened his desk. Time slowed. I watched, helpless, as a folded piece of paper slid forward with the casual betrayal of gravity. My paper. My letter. It landed on his notebook. Right in front of him. The room went silent in that eerie way classrooms do when something socially fatal is about to occur. Rowan frowned slightly and picked up the paper. He unfolded it. Slowly. I stopped breathing. That letter mentions pen chewing. Rowan does not chew pens. Rowan breaks pens. Emotionally. With his aura. He read. Didn't react. Didn't laugh. Didn't look around. Just read. Eli, sitting 2 seats over, leaned in, squinting. "What's that?" Rowan didn't answer. He finished the letter, folded it back along the same lines, and placed it carefully on the desk. Then he turned and looked at me, directly at me. Gray eyes, calm, focused, soft, in a way that made absolutely no sense. The professor cleared their throat awkwardly. Let's get started." Whispers erupted like popcorn. Phones came out. I felt my soul leave my body, wave politely, and continue on to another plane of existence. I have made a mistake so profound, it deserves its own Wikipedia page. Rowan didn't say anything. He just held my gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Then quietly, so quietly only I could hear, he said, "Jack." My name, in his voice, sounded dangerously gentle. "Yes," I croaked. He slid the letter back into his notebook. "We should talk." And just like that, my entire academic career flashed before my eyes, tripped, and fell down a flight of metaphorical stairs. I did not wait for the lecture to end. This was not a "let's process our emotions responsibly" situation. This was a "house is on fire, and I am holding the gasoline" situation. The second the professor turned toward the board, I stood up so fast my chair screeched like it was trying to warn the rest of the room. Rowan was already packing his bag. Calmly. Of course he was. Because when the universe hands Rowan a live grenade, he apparently inspects it, labels it, and files it under manageable complications. "Rowan," I hissed, grabbing my notebook and following him into the aisle. "Hey, hi, wait, please don't..." He stopped just outside the lecture hall. People streamed past us, glancing openly, whispering, doing that thing where they pretended not to stare while very obviously staring. I felt like an exhibit at a museum titled, "Omega Makes a Catastrophic Choice." Not in an aggressive way, just solid, grounded, like a wall that had decided to learn emotional intelligence. "Jack," he said. There it was again. My name, said like it wasn't a punchline. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Say something. Any words. Preferably not, "This isn't what it looks like," because it is exactly what it looks like. Okay, I said finally, words tumbling out sideways. "So, That letter. Not for you. Obviously. Which I'm sure you figured out. Because why would I... No offense, but why would I propose to... I gestured vaguely at him, at the hallway, at the entire situation. Rowan didn't interrupt, didn't smirk, didn't look annoyed. He just watched me spiral like a man observing a weather pattern he couldn't stop but had prepared for. I know it wasn't meant for me, he said. I stopped talking so abruptly my brain skid-marked. You... what? He tilted his head slightly. I figured it out when you went pale like you'd just seen your own ghost. Wow. Accurate. Rude. Fair. And, he added calmly, the part about pen chewing gave it away. Thank you for noticing my thematic consistency while my soul combusts. I can explain, I said quickly. I mean, not explain, because explaining implies justification, and there is none. But I can clarify, or apologize, or both. I can also fake my death if that helps. A corner of his mouth twitched. It was subtle. Dangerous. Like the first crack in a glacier. But, Rowan continued, and the word hit like a pause button, you don't look like you want me to hand it back in front of everyone. I blinked. Once. Twice. Oh. He wasn't wrong. Behind him I could still hear the murmur from the lecture hall, the whispers, the speculation. If he walked back in and loudly returned the letter, it would confirm everything people were already assuming, and then some. Why is the alleged villain managing my dignity? This was not part of the narrative. I swallowed. No. Please don't. I'd rather eat glass. Rowan nodded immediately. Okay. Just like that. No bargaining, no power play. He slid the letter deeper into his notebook and zipped his bag. I won't say anything unless you ask me to, he said. People will forget. I laughed weakly. They absolutely will not. They will, he said, with the calm certainty of someone who had watched college students move on from scandals faster than software updates. They always do. I stared at him, at the quiet confidence. The way he stood slightly angled toward me, like he was shielding me from the traffic of curious eyes without making it obvious. This feels like finding out the dragon has been guarding the village, not terrorizing it. I'm really sorry, I said, quieter now. For all of this. You don't owe me an apology, Rowan replied. That was worse than if he'd accepted it. I owe someone an apology, I muttered. Rowan studied me for a moment. If you need me to clarify anything, he said gently, I will. But I won't decide for you. Romantic line count. 1. Emotional damage. Significant. I nodded, throat tight. Thank you, I said. He hesitated, then added softly, for what it's worth, it was a good letter. I stared. He turned and walked away before I could combust. Great. Fantastic. Now even my humiliation has been validated. I found Eli outside the student center that afternoon. He was sitting on the low stone wall near the coffee cart, tapping his phone with the same pen he always chewed. The pen had a fresh bite mark near the cap, like it had survived another near-death experience. My heart did that stupid, hopeful stutter again. Because I am nothing if not predictable. Hey, I said, approaching cautiously, like one might approach a raccoon with unresolved feelings. He looked up. His smile flickered, just for a second. Then it settled into something polite. Careful. Hey, he said. We stood there, the silence stretching like chewing gum stuck to the bottom of a shoe. I broke first. Of course I did. So, I said, today was... a lot. Eli exhaled. Yeah, it was. I want you to know, I rushed on, that the letter wasn't... I know, he said quickly. Too quickly. Your friends told me. Oh, good, fantastic. Love that for me. Nothing says romance like crowdsourced emotional trauma. I continued, I didn't mean for it to be public, or dramatic, or involve Rowan at all. That part was an accident. A very, very stupid accident. Eli rubbed the back of his neck. Jack, he said, and the way he said my name was different from Rowan. Softer, but thinner. Like it might tear if pulled too hard. I don't really like attention, I know, I said quickly. That's why I wrote the letter instead of, screaming my feelings in the lecture hall like a feral poet. He gave a short laugh. It didn't reach his eyes. This, he gestured vaguely between us, toward the building, the campus, the whispers still hanging in the air. This was embarrassing. My chest tightened. I didn't mean to embarrass you, I said. I swear. I just wanted coffee, maybe a conversation, possibly a mutual fondness for each other's existence. He sighed. I don't want drama, Eli said. And this feels like drama. Ah, there it is. The gentle shutdown, like being told the restaurant is closed after you sit down. I get that, I said, even though something inside me cracked quietly. I do. He nodded, relieved. I think it's better if we just keep things simple, he added. As classmates. Simple. Right. I fell in love with someone who disappears under pressure. That feels important. Sure, I said, forcing a smile. Classmates. Love that for us. He smiled back, already stepping away emotionally. Thanks for understanding, he said. And then he left. Just like that. I stood there for a moment, watching him go, the letter I'd written burning in my bag like a reminder of how easy it was to mistake quiet affection for strength. I don't think he's wrong. I just think he's not here. Behind me, someone laughed. Life moved on. Coffee orders were shouted. The campus kept existing, rude as ever. I thought of Rowan, standing in the hallway, shielding me without asking, managing my dignity like it mattered. I pressed my lips together. Okay, I muttered to myself. Noted. Whatever this was, whatever today had cracked open, it wasn't a joke anymore. And somehow that scared me more than the letter ever had. It happened in the cafeteria, which felt rude, frankly, because I was already having a day. I was halfway through a bowl of something pretending to be soup, lukewarm, vaguely orange, emotionally unavailable, when one of the betas from my statistics class slid into the seat across from me. They grinned like they'd just discovered gossip and were vibrating with the need to release it. So, they said, dragging the word out. Your old bully really caught feelings, huh? I laughed. It was automatic, reflexive, muscle memory. The kind of laugh you do when someone calls you out in public and your brain goes, act normal, act human, laugh now. Ha ha ha, I said. Yeah, classic enemies to lovers trope, very original, 10 points to Gryffindor. They snorted. Didn't know you had that kind of history. Oh, we don't, I said easily. He just existed loudly in my peripheral vision. They nodded, satisfied, already mentally moving on to the next interesting thing in their life, which was probably not me. They grabbed their tray and left. I stared down at my soup. The spoon hovered halfway to my mouth. And then my brain did that awful thing where it stops playing along. Wait, was he actually a bully? Or was I just scared? The spoon clinked softly against the bowl as I set it down. Rowan. The word bully had always fit him neatly, conveniently. Like a label slapped on a box so I didn't have to open it and deal with what was actually inside. Big alpha, quiet, intense, never smiled. Sat behind me in freshman year lectures like some kind of looming final boss. Of course he was a bully, except I frowned. Except I couldn't remember him ever actually doing anything. No insults, no jokes at my expense, no scent posturing, no casual cruelty, just presence. Oh my God. Was I labeling him the way prey labels shadows? My appetite vanished. I pushed the tray away and leaned back, staring at the ceiling like it might offer emotional refunds. And then, uninvited, my memory opened a door I hadn't looked behind in years. Freshman year, second semester. Intro to Behavioral Sciences. The lecture hall was too cold. The chairs were designed by someone who hated spines, and I was sitting in the middle row trying very hard to be unremarkable. I'd just presented a group project. My voice had shaken, my hands had trembled. I'd finished with that awful smile you give when you're hoping no one noticed how close you were to bolting. I sat down quickly. And that's when it happened. A voice from the back of the room, another alpha, loud, careless, already grinning before the words even left his mouth. Well, he drawled. Guess we know who's hitting early heat this year. Laughter rippled. Not the whole room, just enough. The kind that slices. I froze. Okay, don't react. If you don't react, it doesn't count. I stared at my notebook, eyes burning, ears ringing. The professor cleared his throat and shuffled his notes. Didn't say anything. Of course he didn't. The alpha leaned back in his chair, emboldened. What? I'm just saying. You could smell it. More laughter. Something cold slid down my spine. And then a chair scraped, loudly. The sound cut through the room like a knife through fabric. Rowan stood up. I didn't turn around. I didn't dare. But I felt him. His presence hit the room like pressure dropping before a storm. He didn't raise his voice, didn't snarl, didn't bare his teeth. He just said, calmly, clearly, with the weight of something unmovable behind it. Repeat that, Rowan said, and I'll forward the recording to administration. Silence. The alpha laughed nervously. Man, it was a joke. I said, Rowan continued, not louder, not softer. Repeat it. I heard fabric shift. Someone swallowed. The alpha muttered something under his breath and looked away. Rowan stood there for one more heartbeat. Then he sat back down. He didn't look at me, didn't check if I was okay, didn't say another word. Class resumed like nothing had happened. I thought he was terrifying. I didn't realize he was terrifying for them. At the time, I'd sat there shaking, heart pounding, convinced that somehow, some way, Rowan's involvement made everything worse. That drawing attention was dangerous, that being defended was risky. I never thanked him. I never even acknowledged it. I just kept my head down and told myself to avoid him. Because fear doesn't like nuance. The cafeteria ceiling swam back into focus. I exhaled slowly. Oh, I murmured. It came out small, soft, like a confession to myself. He never mocked me, never laughed, never joined in. I thought of other moments. Rowan choosing seats behind or beside me in crowded lectures. Rowan standing slightly closer when voices got loud. Rowan's silence, not dismissive but deliberate. I remember that incident where he had someone bullied me but still can't believe it. I'd mistaken stillness for menace. Because I was young, because I was an omega, because I'd learned early that big, quiet things were usually dangerous, but Rowan hadn't been watching me. He'd been watching the room. My chest tightened. That's, I muttered, rubbing my face. Annoyingly consistent. As if summoned by my realization, footsteps sounded behind me. I turned. Rowan stood there, tray in hand, looking like he'd just walked into a situation he wasn't sure he was welcome in. Hey, he said. My heart did something profoundly unhelpful. Hey, I replied. Silence settled, not awkward, just present. Finally, I said, someone called you my old bully. His brows knit together. Did that bother you? Yes, I said, then paused. But not for the reason they think. He studied me carefully, not intensely, just attentively. I wasn't very approachable back then, he said. That was an understatement on par with calling a hurricane a bit windy. You scared me, I said bluntly. He didn't flinch. I know, Rowan replied. I'm sorry. That apology landed heavier than it had any right to. I swallowed. You defended me. His gaze sharpened slightly. You remember that? I forgot it, I said. On purpose, I think. Rowan nodded once. I didn't want credit. I wanted it to stop. Romantic line count 2. Emotional damage. Escalating. Why didn't you ever say anything? I asked. He tilted his head. You didn't look like you wanted attention. I stared at him. Then I laughed. A short, disbelieving sound. Wow, I said. You read me better back then than I do now. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. I tried, Rowan said. We stood there, the noise of the cafeteria flowing around us like water around rocks. Something inside me shifted. Not dramatically, not explosively. Just enough to change the weight of his name in my head. I didn't fall for him today. I realized I'd misfiled him years ago. I was so confused. And suddenly, the label bully peeled off like a sticker that never really stuck. I had no business being on a football field. This was not my habitat. This was not my ecosystem. This was not even my sport. I was here because one of my friends needed an extra body for practice, and apparently, has functioning legs was the only qualification required. Which felt discriminatory, frankly. I stood on the sidelines, arms crossed, watching a pack of alphas slam into each other like emotionally repressed refrigerators. This is just aggressive hugging with rules. The whistle blew. Someone shouted. The ball flew. And somehow, I ended up in the middle of it. I took one step forward, then another, then something large and fast collided with my left side. The world tipped, hard. I hit the ground with a sound that felt like it came from inside my bones. Air left my lungs in one violent rush. Stars exploded behind my eyes. Okay, that's new. I have unlocked a new level of falling. I don't usually see the universe reboot like this. Someone laughed, not maliciously, just casually, like this was part of the entertainment package. Nice tackle, someone shouted. I tried to sit up. The field tilted. Nope. Bad idea. Pain bloomed along my ribs, sharp and insistent, like my body was filing a formal complaint. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm absolutely not seeing double. The grass has always had two horizons. That's normal. I inhaled, and that's when my scent spiked. Panic, pain, disorientation, the worst trio. My chest tightened as the realization hit. Oh no. That was not subtle. I could feel it leaking out, sweet and sharp, the omega equivalent of a distress flare. Someone groaned. Damn, he went down hard. Another voice. He'll walk it off. I blinked at the sky. Please stop laughing. I am one joke away from crying, and I refuse to cry on a football field. That's how villains are born. Footsteps approached. I squinted. Eli leaned over me, hands on his knees, face creased with concern, but not urgency. You okay? He asked. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. My head felt like it was full of cotton and regrets. Jack? Eli said again. Hey, you're fine. Don't be dramatic. It's nothing. Ah, yes. Nothing. Just the ground punching me in the soul. I swallowed hard and tried to sit up again. The field spun. A sharp sound cut through the noise. Stop the drill. Not shouted, not screamed, commanded. The whistle blew again. Someone cursed. The movement around us stalled like a paused video. A shadow fell across my vision. Rowan. He was already there. I hadn't seen him approach, hadn't heard him run. He knelt in front of me, one knee to the ground, close enough that his presence anchored the world back into place. The laughter stopped. The chatter died. Rowan's voice dropped, not louder, but deeper, resonant. Alpha voice, used precisely once. Clear the space. People moved immediately. He turned his full attention back to me. Jack, Rowan said, steady as gravity. Don't move, look at me, stay with me. His eyes locked onto mine. Gray, focused, calm. The spinning slowed. Oh, this isn't attraction. This is safety. I think, I croaked. I just lost a fight with the ground. A corner of his mouth twitched. The ground cheats. That shouldn't have made me laugh. It did anyway. A breathy, painful sound. Can you tell me where it hurts? Rowan asked. My ribs, I said, and my pride, but mostly my ribs. He nodded, already assessing without touching. Stay still, he repeated. Medics are on the way. Eli hovered nearby, suddenly unsure of where to put himself. It's really not that bad, Eli said again, half to Rowan, half to me. He just got knocked over. Rowan didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge the comment at all. His focus never left me. Jack, Rowan said softly. Are you dizzy? Yes, I admitted. And if you tell me to follow your finger, I will cry. That's okay, he said immediately. You don't have to do anything except breathe. I loved Eli for how he made me feel hopeful. I'm looking at Rowan because he made sure I stayed conscious. That thought landed with uncomfortable clarity, like a switch flipping. The medics arrived fast. Rowan shifted back slightly, hands visible, palms open. Is it okay if I touch your shoulder? He asked. I nodded. The contact was light, grounding. Tell me if anything feels worse, he said. I will complain loudly, I promised. You have been warned. A medic knelt on my other side. What happened? I tried to exist, I said. Would not recommend. Rowan exhaled a soft huff of laughter. They checked my pupils, pressed gently along my ribs. I hissed. Yep, that's the spot. Please never do that again. Possible bruising, the medic said. No obvious fractures, but we'll need imaging. Rowan nodded. We're done here. Not a request. The practice was officially over. As they helped me sit up slowly, Rowan stayed close, but never crowded. Never assuming. Never claiming. He kept talking low and steady, like a lighthouse with opinions. You're doing great, he murmured. Stay with me. We've got you. This is not romantic in the movie sense. This is romantic in the someone will notice if I stop responding sense. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, my vision wobbled again. Rowan's hand hovered near mine, not touching. Can I? He asked. Yes, I said immediately, because apparently my self-control had left the building. His fingers closed around mine, warm, solid. The world steadied. I'm here, Rowan said. I'm not going anywhere. Something inside me loosened, not dramatically, not painfully, just settled. I didn't stop loving Eli today. I realized love without protection is just hope wearing a nice outfit. As they wheeled me toward the sidelines, I caught Eli's eye. He looked worried, guilty, unsure, human. But he didn't follow. Rowan did, all the way to the ambulance, holding my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. And for the first time, the idea of being chosen didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like something that had already happened. Next day, Eli chose a bench near the humanities building, which felt appropriate because nothing says we are about to have a serious conversation like weathered stone and dying grass. I sat beside him, close enough to feel his warmth, far enough to feel the distance already forming. He stared straight ahead. I waited. This is it. This is the scene where the music swells and someone says something devastating but polite. I've been thinking, Eli said finally. Of course he had. People always thought before they broke your heart. They never did it impulsively. That would be rude. I don't think I can handle... He paused, searching for the word. Intensity. I laughed. I didn't mean to. It just slipped out, short and breathless like air escaping a punctured tire. Intensity, I repeated. That's one way to describe being conscious during an emergency. He winced. That's not what I meant. I know, I said gently. You mean me. He turned to look at me then, really look at me, and I saw it. Affection still there, yes, but buried under discomfort, under the weight of things that required standing your ground instead of stepping away. I care about you, Eli said. I really do. But when things got real, I didn't know what to do. I nodded, because I did know. I knew exactly what he meant. I loved him honestly. He just didn't love me when it mattered. I don't blame you, I said. And that surprised me, because it was true. Not everyone is built for crisis, or conflict, or choosing. He exhaled, relief flickering across his face. Thank you. Which hurt more than anger would have. He stood, hesitated like he might say something else, then didn't. I hope you're okay, he said. I will be, I replied. Eventually, statistically speaking. He smiled faintly and walked away. I stayed on the bench, watching his back recede, feeling the hollow settle in my chest. Not sharp, not dramatic. Just empty. Grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it just takes up space like an abandoned building you don't know how to demolish. Rowan noticed before I said anything. Of course he did. He always noticed. He stopped sitting near me in lectures, stopped walking me back after evening classes, stopped hovering on the edges of my space like a quiet guard dog, pretending he was just coincidentally nearby. At first, I thought I'd imagined it. Then I realized, no, this was deliberate. It happened 3 days after Eli walked away. Rowan caught up to me outside the library, then stopped a careful distance away, like he was respecting an invisible boundary. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I replied. Silence stretched, not awkward, intentional. "I wanted to check in," Rowan said, "but I also wanted to say something clearly." I braced myself. "When things changed between us," he continued, "it was because you were hurt. I stepped in because you needed help, not because I expected anything." My throat tightened. "Protection isn't a claim," Rowan said quietly. "I won't blur that line." He held my gaze, steady and unflinching. "I'll be here if you ask," he added, "but I won't crowd you." Why does restraint feel more intimate than pursuit? "Thank you," I said, because it was the only word that fit. He nodded once, then stepped back, actually back, creating space like it mattered. And God, it did. As he turned to leave, something in my chest tugged painfully. I didn't realize how much room he'd been holding for me until he set it down.
The project deadline passed on a Thursday. So did my dignity. I stared at my laptop screen in the computer lab, eyes burning, brain fried, stomach gnawing on itself like it was auditioning for a horror film. The feedback from my professor replayed in my head on a cruel loop. "Jack, this is incomplete. You're capable of better time management."
Please see me during office hours. I hadn't eaten all day. Not because I was busy. Because grief apparently filed paperwork to shut down my appetite. I am one missed meal away from becoming a cautionary tale. I packed up my bag slowly and trudged out into the evening air, shoulders slumped like a deflated balloon animal. I didn't notice Rowan at first. He was leaning against the low brick wall near the quad, holding a paper bag. He straightened when he saw me. "Hey," he said. I blinked. "Hey." "I heard about the project," Rowan said. I groaned. "Please don't say, 'It'll be okay. I will bite.'" He smiled faintly. "I wasn't going to." He held out the bag. "For you." I frowned, suspicious. "Is this a bribe?" "No," he said. "It's pie." That stopped me cold. "Apple," he added. "My favorite. How? How does he know that?" I... How did you... "You always skip lunch when you're stressed," Rowan said calmly. "And you mentioned once that apple pie is the only dessert you'll eat without complaining." I stared at the bag like it was a religious artifact. "I said that one time," I whispered. "You also pick out the cinnamon pieces," he added, "and eat the crust last." I opened my mouth, closed it. Oh no. He pays attention. "I didn't want to intrude," Rowan said, stepping back slightly. "So I figured food was neutral." "Food is never neutral," I said automatically. "Food is emotional warfare." He chuckled softly. I took the bag. The smell hit me immediately. Warm apples, sugar, cinnamon. My eyes burned. Stupid pie. Stupid kindness. "Thank you," I said, voice rough. "You don't have to talk," Rowan said. "You don't have to explain. Just eat." I sat down on the wall. He didn't join me. He stayed standing, giving me space, pretending he wasn't watching to make sure I took a bite. I did, and immediately felt my body remember how to exist. I loved Eli for how he made me dream. Rowan knows how to keep me alive on bad days. "Rowan," I said quietly. "Yes?" "How did you know I hadn't eaten?" He shrugged. "You stop making jokes when you're hungry." I snorted despite myself. "Rude." "Accurate," he countered. We sat there in companionable silence, the night settling around us like a blanket. No claims, no pressure, just care. Offered and not demanded. If love is who stays when things get inconvenient, then I think I've been looking at the wrong person this whole time. Rowan glanced at me once more before leaving. "Take care of yourself," he said. "I'm trying," I replied, and for the first time it didn't feel like a lie. School ended in the evening with the kind of finality that made the air feel heavier. The campus lights flickered on one by one, bathing the walkways in soft gold, and students scattered like released birds, laughing, shouting, already halfway into their night lives. I stood at the top of the steps outside the main building, backpack slung over one shoulder, heart pounding like it was late for something important. I knew. That was the terrifying part. I didn't think or suspect or maybe feel. I knew. So I went looking for Rowan, not impulsively, not frantically, purposefully. I checked his apartment first. Lights off, curtains drawn. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the door like it might open out of pity. It didn't. I checked the gym, empty. I checked the library, closed. With each place crossed off, the weight in my chest grew heavier, not panic, not fear, just the sickening awareness that when you finally choose something, you risk it not being there to choose you back. So my feet took me somewhere else. The park. The one at the edge of campus. The one with the cracked benches and uneven path. The one I hadn't gone to in years. The first place I'd ever been cornered. The memory came back sharp and unwelcome. Freshman year. A group of students, older, bored, cruel in the lazy way of people who never feared consequences. They'd blocked my path, laughed, said things designed to stick. And when I'd finally stumbled back to campus, shaken and furious, they'd leaned in and whispered, if Rowan wanted revenge, he'd get it. I'd believed them, because it made sense then. Big alpha, quiet, intimidating. I'd filed the fear away and never come back. Until now. I sat down on the bench, hands folded between my knees. The night was cool. The park lights hummed softly. I don't have a joke. This feels terrifyingly real. I wasn't here to relive the past. I was here because I needed Rowan, and this was the last place I hadn't looked. I stared at the gravel path, breath steady, chest tight. Please be okay, I thought, not even sure what I meant by it. Footsteps crunched behind me. I turned. Rowan stood a few feet away, jacket unzipped, hair slightly damp like he'd rushed. Hey, he said quietly. Relief hit me so hard my vision blurred. I went home, he continued. My mom told. My throat tightened. Your mom? She said, Rowan added gently, that you came looking for me, twice. I swallowed. I didn't want to miss you, I said honestly. He stepped closer, then stopped, careful, respectful, giving me space. I come here sometimes, Rowan said, to think. I nodded. I didn't know, I whispered. You weren't supposed to, he replied. The park held us in its quiet like it was waiting. I stood up. I need to tell you something, I said. Rowan's gaze sharpened, not intense, just present. I'm listening. Scene 2. The truth. I need to say this clearly, I began, voice steady despite the way my hands trembled, because I don't want confusion, or assumptions, or half-truths. Rowan nodded once. Take your time. I took a breath. The letter wasn't for you. He didn't flinch, didn't look away. I know, he said. I nodded. It was for Eli, and I meant it. I loved him honestly. That mattered. Rowan's expression softened, not wounded, not jealous. Understanding. But, I continued, what I felt for him was hope, the idea of something good, something easy. I laughed weakly. Turns out easy disappears fast when things go wrong. Rowan stayed silent, so I kept going. My feelings changed on the field, I said. Not because you were strong, or impressive, or because you scared people. I looked at him directly. They changed because you stopped the world for me, because you made sure I stayed conscious, because you asked before touching me. My chest tightened, because when I was hurt, you didn't minimize it. You didn't ask me to be braver or quieter or less. Rowan's voice was low when he spoke. You deserved better than that. I shook my head. No, I said. I deserved exactly what you gave. The words hung between us. Then I said the part that scared me most. I was wrong about you. Rowan frowned slightly. How? That night, years ago, I said softly, when I was cornered here, it wasn't you. Those students lied. They planned it because they knew you liked me. They wanted to scare me away from you. His jaw tightened. I never told anyone, I added. I just assumed the worst, and you let me. I let you feel safe, Rowan said, even if it meant you misunderstood me. My eyes burned. That's not fair, I whispered. He stepped closer then, still slow, still careful. Jack, Rowan said, voice warm and steady, I don't regret protecting you, even when you didn't know. Silence fell again. This time it wasn't heavy. It was expectant. I took one last breath. Turns out the mistake wasn't the letter, I said. It was my definition of love. Rowan looked at me like I was something fragile and valuable at the same time. Then choose me, he said quietly. Don't fall into me. My heart stuttered. I am choosing you, I said. On purpose. He smiled, not wide, not triumphant, just real. Rowan reached out, stopping inches away. May I? He asked. Yes, I said. His hand slid into mine, warm and grounding. I won't rush you, Rowan said. I won't assume, I won't cage you with affection. He squeezed my hand gently. But if you choose me, he added, voice deep and certain, I'll stand with you every time the world gets loud. I swallowed. I want that, I said. I want you. Rowan leaned in, not to kiss, not yet, but close enough that his forehead rested lightly against mine. Good, he murmured, because I've been choosing you for a long time. And for the first time, love didn't feel like hope. It felt like home. The next morning felt suspiciously calm, like the universe was holding its breath. I woke up before my alarm, stared at the ceiling for a long moment, and waited for panic to kick in. It didn't. That should have been my first clue that something fundamental had shifted. This is either emotional growth or the quiet before I ruin everything again. I got dressed slowly, thoughtfully, chose a sweater that didn't scream I am confessing my feelings today but also didn't whisper I have given up entirely. A careful middle ground, a Switzerland of outfits. The letter sat on my desk. 1 page, clean handwriting, no jokes scribbled in the margins, no self-deprecation hiding behind humor like a raccoon behind a trash can lid. Just truth. I picked it up, folded it once, then twice, then unfolded it again, because apparently I'd developed trust issues with paper. Okay. Check the desk, then check it again. Then maybe check it a third time, because growth doesn't erase trauma. The campus buzzed softly as I walked in, early enough that the hallways weren't loud yet. Just footsteps, murmured greetings, the smell of coffee and determination. Rowan's classroom was unlocked, empty, perfect. I walked to the desk, stopped, counted rows, counted seats, counted again. I placed the letter inside carefully, like I was returning a borrowed library book instead of my entire heart. Then I closed the desk. Then I opened it again. Yep, still correct. Growth is checking twice instead of panicking once. I left. I did not run. This felt important. Rowan found me before I found him. I was halfway through pretending to read a flyer about club sign-ups when his shadow fell across the paper. Jack, he said. I looked up. There he was, calm, grounded, real. My chest tightened in that familiar, steady way. Not panic, not fireworks, just recognition. Hey, I said. He held up the folded paper between 2 fingers. Found something in my desk, Rowan said. I winced. Before you say anything? Relax, he said, smiling faintly. This time it was definitely for me. I exhaled. Good, I muttered, because I triple-checked. He tilted his head. You know, Rowan said thoughtfully. Even your letters are smarter than you. I squinted. Rude. They knew where they belonged, he continued, eyes warm. My pie. I laughed, soft and helpless. You absolutely did not just call me pie. I absolutely did, Rowan replied. You're sweet, occasionally chaotic, and you emotionally stabilize people when they least expect it, and I love eating pie. That is the nicest and strangest compliment I've ever received, I said. Get used to it. We walked to the courtyard together. Quiet, shaded, empty, except for a single bench tucked beneath a tree that had seen better decades. Rowan sat first. I sat beside him. Close, but not crowded. Private. He unfolded the letter. I didn't watch his face this time. I watched the leaves overhead sway in the breeze, listened to the distant hum of campus life going on without us. This is it. No audience, no confusion, no emergency services required. Rowan read slowly, deliberately. When he finished, he didn't speak right away. He folded the letter once, then looked at me. "Jack," he said. "Yes," I replied immediately, because apparently my ability to wait had been revoked. "You didn't ask me a question," Rowan said gently. I blinked. "I didn't?" "No," he said. "You made a choice." My throat tightened. "I wanted to be clear," I said. "No pressure, no expectations, just honesty." He reached out, not grabbing, not pulling, and rested his hand over mine. Warm, steady. "Can I read it back to you?" Rowan asked. I nodded. He unfolded the letter again. "I once thought love was the quiet hope that nothing would go wrong," he read. "But I've learned it's the certainty that someone will stand in front of danger, not behind excuses." I swallowed. "I don't want to fall accidentally," Rowan continued. "I want to choose deliberately." He looked up at me. "I accept," Rowan said simply. The world didn't explode. No bells rang. No one cheered. But something inside me settled permanently into place. I laughed quietly. "That's it? No dramatic pause?" He smiled. "You don't need one." He leaned closer, not rushed, not hesitant, and pressed his forehead to mine. "I don't want to cage you with devotion," Rowan said softly. "I want to walk beside you." I breathed him in. "You make it very hard not to choose you," I said. "I'll keep earning it," he replied. We sat there for a while, fingers intertwined, not talking, just existing. That was all we were doing. Sitting close enough that our shoulders brushed, not close enough to feel crowded. The air between us felt held, like it was aware of us, like it was waiting. I noticed small things first. The way Rowan's thumb traced slow, absent circles against the back of my hand. Not possessive, not restless. Just there, like he was grounding himself as much as me. I noticed my breathing had evened out without me telling it to. That was new. Wow. So this is what calm feels like. I've been living life on manual mode. Rowan shifted slightly, turning toward me. His knee brushed mine, stayed there. He didn't rush it. Didn't pretend it was an accident either. Just let the contact exist. "Jack," he said quietly. The way he said my name always felt like he was checking in, not calling me out. "Yeah?" I replied. He studied my face for a long moment, like he was memorizing something he didn't want to forget later. "You okay?" he asked. I smiled, small and real. "Yeah, I really am." Something in his expression softened, relief maybe, or permission. Rowan lifted his hand slowly, deliberately, like he was giving me time to pull away if I wanted to. His fingers brushed my jaw first, warm and careful, before sliding back to rest at the nape of my neck. Not gripping, not claiming, just steady. The touch sent a quiet shiver down my spine. Not sharp, not overwhelming. Familiar somehow. Like my body recognized safety before my brain could comment on it. Okay. So this is happening. Please do not ruin this with a joke about kneecaps or something. His thumb pressed lightly against the skin there, grounding me, anchoring me in the moment. "Tell me if you want me to stop," Rowan murmured. I swallowed. "I don't." That was it. That was the permission. He leaned in slowly. So slowly I could have counted heartbeats if I wanted to. His forehead brushed mine first, a pause that felt like a question. I tilted my head just slightly. Rowan closed the distance. The kiss was gentle, unhurried, more a promise than an action. No desperation, no rush, just warmth and certainty and the quiet realization that this wasn't something I had to brace for. His lips moved against mine like he was learning me, like this mattered enough to take time. I felt the faint hitch of his breath, the way his hand at my neck steadied just a fraction more, not to pull me closer, but to make sure I stayed. I kissed him back, carefully at first. Then with a little more confidence because he didn't disappear when I did. The world narrowed, not dramatically, not explosively, but in that soft way where everything else becomes background noise. When we finally pulled apart, our foreheads rested together again. Rowan smiled, small and real, like he was holding something precious. There you are, he said softly. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Yeah, I replied. Here I am. I leaned into his touch, just slightly, letting my head rest against his shoulder. For the first time, I didn't feel like I needed to be funny to deserve staying. I still use sarcasm. I just don't use it to hide anymore. Final message. Eli was love that felt safe in theory. Rowan was love that stood in front of danger. I didn't change my heart overnight. I remembered who had been guarding it all along.